generally speaking, there are some basic criteria which we all adhere to. And I think this is obvious. Well, though Russia and America are usually contradicting about situation with human rights, I agree with you that in both countries there are a lot of problems with this.
Well, we all
yes, exactly. But we should be clear about it. We should be honest about it. Well, we should all. This is modern life. We cannot hide things like this. We should be very open and very transparent in issues like human rights and democratization.
Well, Georgia, your neighbor, is considered in the world to be one of the most democratic countries of the post-Soviet space. Well, probably if we ask Washington, second after the Ukraine. So, why don't you want to live under Georgian sovereignty?
Well, we don't believe so positively in the Georgian democracy because we experienced it on our skin, I would say. But, well, if Georgia is so democratic, let Georgia think about giving free to their neighbors, to Abkhazia. We're also a democratic country. We want to develop democratic institutions and human rights. Well, we want to be their good democratic neighbor.
You want to be an independent state, or you want to be part of the Russian Federation? This is the principle.
We exactly want to be independent state. I think that some people introduce Abkhazia as a country which strives to separate from Georgia and join Russia, which is very, very dangerous point of view.
Says Maksim Gunjia, Deputy Foreign Minister of Abkhazia. Spotlight will be back shortly, so stay with us and then go away.
Russia Today.
Russia Today.
Russia Today. Svetlana Kuratina, Russia Today. Policia, Russia Today.
They circle around the globe to bring you the latest news.
Everyone who wants to make
It will make sense.
a voice to the voiceless.
Putting themselves in danger in the hottest spots.
On one side, peaceful demonstrations.
The tanks and troops are ready. This is the real front line.
Searching all over Russia.
They were ready to take part in the May Day demonstration.
That's it. We're going down. This is the end.
This was the most grandiose construction.
And around the world.
Paris, Georgia,
New Valley,
Israel,
Hanoi,
Tehran,
Chechnya, Moscow.
For full and unbiased information,
Keeping the balance might not be easy.
which you get firsthand. A single button made by an American worker who was drafted into the army tells the story of war. Across the Atlantic in a cargo hold, then halfway across Europe on a Russian soldier's uniform.
Then in May of 1945, on the banks of the Elbe River in Germany, the story of this button comes full circle, because that's when the Russian soldier who was wearing it met with his American counterpart.
An inkling of how the United States provided the coalition with much-needed supplies during the Second World War. Paul Tadich looks at the true story of Lend-Lease on Russia Today.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm Al Gurnov, and just a reminder that our guest today is Maksim Gunjia, Deputy Foreign Minister of Abkhazia, a breakaway self-declared independent republic in the Caucasus on the Black Sea coast that has been fighting for its independence rather successfully for the last 14 years. Mr. Gunjia, please tell me, what are the historic arguments in favor of Abkhazian independence? What gives you the right as a diplomat, as a citizen, to back your position inside and outside your country, that your people has a right to be, not to be part of Georgia?
Well, I don't want to go back into deep history, but like any country in former Soviet Union, we experienced the same process of historical incorporation into Soviet Union and then collapse, and then
were you incorporated into the Soviet Union as a country? I think not.
Exactly. We were incorporated into Soviet Union as a Soviet country, and then in 1931 we were incorporated into Georgia as autonomous republic by Stalin. There was a period of from 1921 until 1931 when we were actually a union republic of the Soviet Union. Mm-hmm. And then there was a period of assimilation of Abkhaz people and a period of discrimination of Abkhaz language, and Abkhaz people rioted for many years until 1992 when we could no longer.
But has Abkhazia ever been an independent state before the Soviet Union, during the Russian Empire? I mean,
exactly. There was a period of a very dramatic period in Abkhaz history when Abkhazia was an independent country, and during.
When was that?
It was starting from 13th century and up to 19th century.
So about 5 centuries you were an independent state, exactly. And then you became part of the Russian Empire.
Yes, and there was a very dramatic period in Abkhaz history when we were involved in the Russian Caucasian War, and many of Abkhaz people were deported to...
Okay, now these are the historic arguments. Now let's talk about legal arguments. Well, as far as the media is concerned, the only legal argument you have to be independent is that you have won a war against Georgia. Is that the only legal argument you have?
It's not the only legal. When the Soviet Union collapsed, the agreements, Soviet agreements that bind Abkhazia and Georgia no longer existed. Georgia declined constitution of Soviet constitution and returned to constitution when Abkhazia wasn't part of Georgia. Mm-hmm. So this was actually a point when, in the relations between Abkhazia and Georgia, there was legal collapse.
So Abkhazia became part of Georgia by an act admitted by the Soviet government, and since Georgia no longer recognizes acts of the Soviet Union, this makes Abkhazia legally not part of Georgia.
You're absolutely
so
right.
What do the Georgians say to that argument when you tell them?
There was a letter addressed by Abkhaz Parliament in 1992 to Georgian government, saying that we are ready to review the state of our relations, and we propose Georgia federative model of coexistence. But unfortunately, at that time, Shevardnadze was still with the habits of communist leaders, and he decided to invade Abkhazia and to halt any aspiration for reviewing relations between Abkhazia and Georgia.
When have you visited Tbilisi for the last time?
I've never been to Tbilisi. Once I've been when I was a kid, but it was...
How can you be a high-ranking diplomat, deputy foreign minister of Abkhazia, not having any communications with Tbilisi?
There are other people in my office involved in negotiation process. I'm more involved in establishing relations.
So your foreign ministry is negotiating with Tbilisi?
Exactly.
You do have contacts.
Exactly. But today, at present, the negotiation process is stolen because of Georgia regularly violates agreements that we achieved during negotiation process, which lasts for 14 years.
Why don't they talk to you? Because they consider you to be too weak?
No, Georgia actually talks to us, but they always want to talk without any preconditions. We talk, we agree, we sign agreement, we put our signatures on some concrete documents, and then Georgia violates these agreements, and they say that, okay, let's forget about those agreements, let's start again.
If you're not recognized by anybody, including Moscow, why doesn't Georgia, as they said a couple of times just send troops into Abkhazia and return it back under Tbilisi's sovereignty?
There are unfortunately such forces in Georgia who consider such idea of going and retaking Abkhazia.
Can they do that if they want? Are they stronger than you or not? You did win a war, but that was 14 years ago. What about today?
Of course, I would tell you that our Abkhaz army is very